right, now, do we have an update on Quantum Leap?
Yeah, yeah, it's still bad.
No,
I mean, it's
first of
yeah.
all, don't let's just give it a second here.
All
Let's
right.
let's talk about this. Alan, let me feature you. We got a lot of movies to talk about today. Quantum Leap, give us your update on the show.
Yeah,
Well, I get a refill. I got to get a refill
yeah.
here. I'll be right back.
I will say, saying it's bad, only bad because it's trying to be Quantum Leap. I feel like if they had just created a whole new series, it'd be an okay movie, an okay TV show. And I'll just say this about Quantum Leap: it's bland as hell, and the characters are bland, and that's the problem with the show. And you feel like that. Having said that, that they could make some minor changes to actually fix the show, and so let's fix Quantum Leap. How do you make bland characters interesting? You give them some kind of a backstory. You give them some kind of you create a character, and you don't make them, you don't call it strong woman and leave it at that, or you don't leave it as enlightened man. You have to give characters a lot more depth than that. We need to understand their backstory, their history, what got them to this point in life. The other thing that makes a bland character not bland is the idea that they're human beings, meaning that they're imperfect, that they have what I hear a lot of people talk about in terms of character development. They have a fatal flaw. And there's something about the way they've grown up, or their personality, that makes them imperfect and therefore relatable, because the reality is we're all imperfect and we relate to people who are not always perfect all the time. And that's the problem with the show is, it's all the characters are just people who exist in a show. It's like you grab 5 random people, put them in an escape room and said, okay, escape. And so they figure out puzzles and then they escape. And that's pretty boring week after week. You've got to say there's this idea that if you have 5 people on your show, that they all have to complement each other, and not just from a job standpoint, but from a personality standpoint. Someone is strong, someone is weak, someone has, someone is the leader, someone is a good follower but has a certain set of skills. And that is the problem with the show, is that every person is just a person. Ben is set in the situation. He has to figure it out. He figures out, he moves on. His team is there. They're there to help him move on. But none of them have any kind of backstory or flaw that we care about. And that's the problem with this show, and why it is so bland, and why people are just not talking about it. House of the Dragon, you can take each character, break them down, understand their motivations, understand their fears, their weaknesses, their strengths, and how they play against each other, and how it made the problems that it's going, that the Targaryens are going down. That's an interesting show. Those are interesting characters. And it just seems to me that Hollywood doesn't know how to do that anymore. Show after show, Reva from Kenobi, bland as hell. She's just a tough female Sith, or whatever they call her. So so we're continuing down Quantum Leap. It's just doing the same old. Spends less time on the actual assignment Sam has to figure out. Spends too much time on the backstory, and so we'll probably wait another couple weeks before we talk about Quantum Leap again.
Well, Alan, thank you for the update. I appreciate that. You've confirmed for me that I don't need to watch the show. I feel like that can apply to a lot of shows, but it's interesting you bring up House of the Dragon. By comparison, the characters are all flawed in some way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, some of them are too bloodthirsty or quick to violence. Some are frequent masturbators. So your flaws definitely are all over the map, but that's what has made Game of Thrones. And yes, we don't need to talk about that Game of Thrones disappointed in the end, but it was so good. There were so many good seasons, and I think that's also the tragedy of that show. But I'll tell you, House of the Dragon really, for me, has been great through and through. I even like the last 2 episodes. Although I think what they should have done, they should have split the season into 2 halves, because it would have made the time jump and the recasting more palatable. And secondly, they probably, that last episode could have been 2 hours, right? It just should have been a 2 hour or 90-minute episode.
Yeah.
I think might have been better served.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just bring up King Viserys. He's the leader, he's the king, but he's weak. I mean, that he struggle. He wants to maintain peace at all costs, but at the same time, he needs to keep his family in mind. And to me, that's a deep character. You know, he has all the flaws there, and that's TV doesn't have that anymore. Network television doesn't have that anymore.
Well, you could say he's weak, but his rule, it was a time of peace.
Yeah,
it was a time of peace for the most part. And now we're getting into the dance of the dragons. I for one, and we're gonna get, you know, when we're gonna see House of the Dragon season 2 in 2024. So there you go. And it's all gonna be about Trump. That's just the rumor. It's not. Thank God.
Well, it depends if he runs again. It'll be about Trump then.
Then it'll be, yes, yeah, it will. Yeah. No, it's, look, I think that I think it would just be wise to steer clear of politics altogether when it comes to this stuff.